Become a part of the Horton team. We're looking for welders, painters, assemblers, machine operators, cabinet makers, and other positions to build emergency vehicles that help save lives. Join us at our hiring event on Wednesday, January 18th from 2 to 5 p.m. at 3800 McDowell Road in Grove City. We offer a huge $1,500 sign-on bonus and great benefits such as 401k match, medical coverage starting day one, and much more. For more information on what Horton can do for you, visit careers.revgroup.com and search Grove City.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool.
Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
You're about to listen to a podcast full of wonder, excitement, and discovery. It's time for an adventure through Odyssey. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Adventures Through Odyssey podcast, Odyssey Revisited. I'm Will here with John, and if you've been following our social medias or our Instagram, you'll know I've been teasing the idea of an Adventures in Odyssey trivia game. And I think a lot of you have said yes, so we might have a legit Adventures in Odyssey game show in the pipeline.
What? Okay, I don't follow our social media. One, because I'm not on social media. Haven't heard anything about this. And two, well, as someone who has done a little dabbling into copyright law, you can copyright fictional facts, so we could get sued over this.
I think if we just say it's for fun, we won't get sued over this.
I guess if we don't charge for it. I don't know.
Why would
know
we?
How this all works.
Yeah, well, if you read the Google Calendar, you'd know we had a meeting about it.
I don't think we have a Google Calendar. Actually, I don't know how it works with that, because there are things like that exist, but there's a classic case involving a Seinfeld trivia book.
Well, if we're not publishing anything.
That's fair.
Okay. No, we've been using a Google Calendar for like 3 years now. I have to have all these meetings by myself.
I know this is a bit.
How do you know it's a bit?
I've heard you give me enough flack about this podcast before that you certainly would have mentioned, and you never read the Google Calendar. Like, I'm certain you would have complained to me about it if this was truly a thing.
Okay, I've been caught. Okay, so we've got some more episodes. I think you'll have heard our thoughts on whatever the second episode of 72 Hours is, or album 74. Buckle up. Man, I'm losing it today. It's almost Christmas and I'm starting to feel it, and it's freezing down here in South Carolina, so...
Oh, so cold down in South Carolina. What is it, the 50s?
The 40s, actually.
It's the 20s here, and
yeah.
It's colder.
I know Chicago's having a polar vortex.
Polar vortex, I think, starts on tomorrow or Thursday?
At least you have a wife to keep you warm. I only have Gracie, who won't hold still for more than 30 seconds.
Well, you just gotta be gentle. When you were children, you would take our dog Hershey, and I feel like you tried to hug her, but you'd like lean back with her, and I'd always see a panic look on her face.
Hershey was a panicky dog, so... Anyway, before this gets any more awkward, on to the episodes. But yes, keep an eye out for that Adventures in Odyssey trivia show, because I've got some very, very fun ideas for it. Hold on, everyone. It's time to be real.
Okay. Stop. Is it actually?
Yes.
I'm not on any social media, even the supposed real social media.
But they get to see behind the scenes fun of our podcast.
I suppose.
Anyway, moving on. The first episode for real this time, Lincoln Parts 1 and 2. Jimmy uses the imagination station to travel back to the 1800s. He meets up with a fellow named Abraham Lincoln in D.C., but events soon take a drastic turn.
I mean, I like the episode quite a bit. I think it's a good history episode.
Yes.
You know, I think part of the issue to me is that, it is just the story of Lincoln.
Yes.
It's like, I think because it's like, sometimes I feel like they're more willing to do a little more like not like looser on the Bible stories, but like talk about other perspectives. Jimmy's like, though I guess like some weird stuff happens, like he gets like kidnapped almost.
Yeah,
they hostage.
They needed
So
two parts.
I don't know. I guess I like this episode, but like the things I have to say about it are more like weird little like questions about the imagination station. Like the idea that Jimmy has been gone for days or weeks.
In the program? Yeah.
Right, like because he gets like held up, and then Lincoln's like, "Well, I haven't seen you since then, like a few weeks ago. The war's ended since then."
I mean, I'm assuming it's just time jumps and stuff that the machine can do because it's weird.
But I don't recall the time. So is Jimmy like he in a time jump where he's still thinking, or is it like a weird dream where you're like, oh, like 2 weeks have gone by, but it's just kind of like this like weird like sense of time.
I mean, there is that episode later where they basically gaslight Renee in the imagination station for 24 hours.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
My bigger thing is the whole thing with the remote and Mr. Whitaker telling Jimmy he can't change history. Like, all right, obviously we can't change history, but is he saying, and I think this is fine, the imagination station programs will always make sure that history goes the correct way?
Yeah, that's like weird too. And I guess, I mean, I give credit to Whit for that because, right, you don't necessarily want to change that. And I'm sure that was a question, like, why can't the kids change what happened? But then it also, like, weird because it kind of, like, devalues some of, like, the autonomy they have.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point.
I mean, so the imagination station doesn't promote free will.
Dun, dun, dun.
Just kidding. It is, I think, I don't know, that's just a weird thing I always remember. Like, I feel like he's in there for a while, and right, now, I'll say this. Does every Lincoln story have to end with him dying?
I guess.
Because it's like the whole thing I remember people talking about, like, Spielberg's Lincoln. It's not at all about his death. And then they just had to show him at the end getting shot.
I don't disagree with that.
It's become so ingrained in, like, his story that he gets assassinated that every history thing has to, like, show that, even if that's not the story they're telling.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Now that you say it.
I mean, part of that is, people have argued, I think Lincoln was a very good president, and, like, argued he did a lot of things. But some contrarians have argued, like, if he hadn't been assassinated, he had many policies that weren't good. Although, if you look at his results, very good president. But, like, I think they do try to hammer that home because there's, like, a sympathy thing. And it kind of makes him this, like, otherworldly figure. It's a little bit like Kennedy.
Yes.
Like, Kennedy probably would have been criticized more had he not died. And so his death is integral because it was, like, a president that did, like, he did some big things. Like, some huge things. And, like, his death kind of said, like, who knows what could have been.
I would agree with that.
Although, arguably, Lincoln's death actually, if he hadn't died, things probably would have gone better with Reconstruction. The country would probably be in a better place than it is right now. But that's beside the point.
Well, that is true. And actually, your Kennedy thing, if you've never seen the Natalie Portman movie, Jackie, it's something I wish they had explored more.
Yeah.
Because all they talk about is the great they could have done and not... why not go a little deeper into that? This is the same person who did the Princess Diana movie with Twilight Girl from a few years ago. I can't think of her name.
Kristen Stewart.
Thank you, Kristen Stewart.
Although, no, I can't. I don't want to bring that up. That's definitely not age range 8 to 12. So let's get back to Odyssey.
So I think this is a good history episode. Again, I feel like we might need to have a rule about these history episodes that we make some notes and say more about them because I just never do.
We just talked a bunch about it. We just talked about the underlying history of Lincoln in general. But right, it's kind of like, history. I like the guy who played Abraham Lincoln.
Yes, that was good.
I liked him. I thought he did a really good Lincoln voice. I think I looked him up. It's Walker Edmiston.
Yes, who plays...
He's
the
played
character.
A bunch of different characters.
He's the character who premieres in the next episode.
Oh, okay. Which is who?
Well, let's find out in our next episode by any other name. Kurt Stevens runs for student council but lies a lot in his speeches, while Phil Phillips attempts to cash in on Odyssey's businesses, including Wits End. Now, he's not mentioned, but this is the first episode of everyone's favorite window washer, Bernard Walton.
Bernard.
Yes.
Oh, I'll say this, that he did a good job.
Yeah, and it's a good first appearance in that it's a character who could have easily been a one-off, but they managed to work him into more episodes. Anyway, so I have mixed feelings on this episode, because on one hand, Kurt is kind of flat out lying, especially about the ice cream and stuff, but there are things like more breaks from classes, that kind of thing, that you would believe a kid his age would think he could make happen. So it makes Lucy come off as just a little uptight in this episode.
It's also hard because this is it's weird because it seems like most children or teen shows do the running for student council story, and it's always these big promises, and will they ever be able to deliver them? And it's well, probably not, because the student council doesn't have that much power.
Yes.
I remember the Arthur episode where they ran for class president, and Binky won by promising all this stuff, and it's funny because that episode was actually basically saying that appealing to what people want was a smart strategy.
Yes.
Instead of mudslinging at each other, which I actually think is probably a better lesson to strictly be taken from a children's political episode.
Right, and actually, so I thought in this episode Lucy joined the fray, and runs by herself, and she doesn't. I'm thinking of some other show, clearly.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if a better message might have been, sometimes you'll run on the best platform possible, but you'll still lose. Now, if Lucy had won and lost to Kurt, this episode would have a very unfortunate implication post-2016. But,
yeah, I mean, I'm curious if they'd ever do a how strict of a student council thing again. I mean, I think even in Focus, my guess is the writers are divided on certain political topics.
You're probably right.
And doing an episode about because this episode very clearly focused on lying in politics, and I feel today that would not be, unfortunately, would not be as easy of a slam dunk of yeah, of course we want people to be honest in politics.
Oh yeah. Yes. And again, I think I know Kurt's being a blowhard, and I think he knows it, but he might not be lying, and who knows what all those campaign promises were. This is the first appearance of Bernard.
Very good.
And I think the subplot's interesting. Wit is a little stubborn to change things, and obviously, I understand it's supposed to be the point of the episode, but you also wonder if Wit brought in a person today, how he'd react to some of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit the whole episode kind of has oh yeah, this good nature, this is how things are supposed to be sort of vibe.
Yes. And this is also, go ahead.
Bad, but it is the whole episode is going for a very particular vibe that I don't know if applies well today.
Yes, and this is also the episode where Chris gets replaced by that group of people for Adventures in Oncology, which, this is one of the first 10 episodes I remember hearing, and it always confused me. What's going on here?
It is a weird joke.
I mean, the joke makes sense 100 episodes in if you know the formula of the show, but...
Yeah.
A little out of nowhere, so...
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Bad luck. Robin is intent on proving that a chain letter won't cause her bad luck, but it would seem that there is some magical force working against her.
I also, another episode that I don't think ages particularly well
Well, because chain letters aren't a thing anymore, or...
Well, right, a kid's like, what's a chain letter? I guess you see, like, social media posts where it's like this now, or receive, like, 10 years of bad luck. But
Right,
I also feel like... Huh?
Or creepypastas on the internet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about if he would ever do a creepypasta episode, because I don't think they want kids to know that those exist.
Mr. Whitaker, Ben drowned!
Yikes. Let's see if anyone gets that.
Yeah.
But that's funny.
Thank you.
It just feels like, yeah, the social media, like, I don't know if kids are aware of that, or of, like, even how much bad luck is even, like, I even feel like, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm an adult now, but, like, the whole, like, superstition, like, oh, black cats, like, don't walk under ladders. Like, that almost feels like it's not even, like, as culturally irrelevant of things anymore.
I don't disagree, but I do like that the episode at least tries to give explainers for why some things are superstition.
Yeah, I actually think that's, like, really smart. Especially because some of them are, like, kind of, like, debunked, like, religious things, like the ladder.
Yes.
Like, it's like, oh, that's, like, an interesting, like, thing to know about. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe kids are running around on social media being like, I had to like it or I get bad luck, or, like, you know, doing all that kind of stuff. But I don't really, like, see that as much anymore. And it really, like, I feel like a lot of the places I see it still propagated is in children's shows trying to disprove.
Right. Now, for all I
like,
know,
the bad luck.
Maybe you're right. For all we know, kids are freaked out by this stuff. But,
yeah.
I mean, for the time, it was a good episode. Only time Maud speaks until, like, episode 500.
That's funny.
Which was probably because before they decided Maud was going to be an off-screen character.
Yeah, like, I mean, I think it's a fine episode. It does end a little... The ending's is, like, very serious.
Yes, it is a very, very dark ending.
Like, it's like this... Is this the one that mentions, like, the spiritual forces?
Yes, Robin gets hit by a bike and all of that. Or by a car on her bike.
Right, and it's like, I'm not, like, gonna... If it's the one I'm thinking of... I think I've just listened to a huge chunk of episodes lately, and I'm trying to remember if this is one of them. Like, the spiritual forces, like, both good and bad in the world, and it's like, you're getting real, like, heavy.
Yes,
with, like,
it is.
this. And it's not bad. It's okay. So I guess it's like this. I guess it seems a little overdramatic for, like, little superstition things. I get the idea. I mean, this is the same episode that has the Dungeons, like, the album that has, like, the Dungeons and Dragons episode, I believe. So it's like, I get they were kind of, I think, trying to deal with these things where it's like, oh, it's, like, gonna, like, spiral down to, like, worse things. Like, but it does go, sometimes things go from, like, 0 to 60. Like, it's just suddenly like, oh, like, it's like a little things like black cats or, like, chain letters, like, isn't this dumb and goofy? But they're like, no, this is serious because it implicates this. And it's like, I guess it can implicate that, but it almost sometimes feels like you're scaring kids, but, like, I mean, talking about it in this. And I think that's to some extent what they were trying to do. Like, don't believe in superstitions. Don't play Dungeons and Dragons. Don't do this. Don't do that.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong. And I think this was sort of meant to freak kids out a little bit.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to the last episode of this episode, Issac the Courageous. Isaac Morton is pressured to join. No, because Lincoln was 2 parts.
Yeah, we did Lincoln, the election episode, Bad Luck, and what else?
Become a part of the Horton team. We're looking for welders, painters, assemblers, machine operators, cabinet makers, and other positions to build emergency vehicles that help save lives. Join us at our hiring event on Wednesday, January 18th from 2 to 5 p.m. at 3800 McDowell Road in Grove City. We offer a huge $1,500 sign-on bonus and great benefits such as 401k match, medical coverage starting day one, and much more. For more information on what Horton can do for you, visit careers.revgroup.com and search Grove City.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Lincoln. Front Lincoln. By any other name, bad luck. Wait. 1, 2, 3.
There's been
4,
a clerical
5.
error.
This is why I'm never allowed to do math. Issac the Courageous. All right, on to the next episode. Issac the Courageous. Isaac Morton is pressured to join the Bones of Wrath to fit in and hopes to prove himself that he has courage.
I actually like this episode quite a bit.
Yes.
I
First
think one
appearance
of
of
the stronger
Rodney.
first appearance of Rodney. I think a very strong Isaac episode.
Yes.
I think it's cool because I actually think as an introduction to the Bones of Wrath, it's actually kind of a cool little like world building episode where you like see him like taking initiates for it. You kind of see these different phases. It's kind of fun to see them kind of like stand up to him at the end.
Oh yeah.
But it's interesting that they brought it back. So I think some of it is knowing what they're gonna do with the Bones of Wrath and like in the future episodes, but I also think in of itself, it's kind of it's generic as an episode, like, kids, like getting initiated into like a little club, or gang as a kid. I feel like is a thing that pops up in other children's media. Like, yeah, let's go join this group.
I agree. And then it's a great ending about how bullies are all wimps, which I feel like is a bad message to teach kids, but okay. Just in case your bully isn't a wimp.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard because it's hard in a thing like this where they wanted to have like a big like happy ending. Like, yeah, you like stood up for yourself and isn't that good? But it's like, yeah, the reality is sometimes you stand up for yourself and you're going to get beat up.
Agreed. Sorry, everyone. My headphones just fell off because I was trying to look cool.
I think it does depend. Like, okay, so like, sorry to reference Arthur again. I mean, Arthur's example is more like, oh, eat a bug.
There we go.
Like, the Arthur example is more like, eat a bug. Well, like, this is a little more like, yeah, why don't you just do that?
Yeah,
prove yourself.
Walk on the thin ice. But, right, and I like that the episode ends with us making sure, hey, what Isaac did was brave as opposed to strand himself on top of the rope. John may have already said that while I was struggling with my headphones. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, and I do like that, and I don't know if Rodney was meant to be a reoccurring character, but it is really good that they brought him back, because even in this episode, he is such a dynamically formed character.
Yeah, it's very well done.
So...
But again, yes. I feel bad that we don't have more to say this album, but a lot, like, I feel like last episode we talked a bunch, but I feel like a lot of these are kind of like form episodes, like a little bit like, oh, like this is a very like kind of cliche story. So we're kind of just talking about the cliches, or it's like, it's the story of Lincoln. And it's like, I don't know what to say. I mean, like the Lincoln story has been told a bunch of times, and it's not like, let's focus on like young Abraham Lincoln running for office.
Yeah, that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last episode, 2 sides to every story. Jimmy and Donna tell their parents 2 different versions of how their TV caught on fire.
Never throw water on an electrical fire.
I mean, I don't know why Chris said that. We all figured that from the episode.
Well, apparently... Okay, right, that's the weird thing. Apparently firefighters complained, if I recall correctly. Like, they talked about this in, like, one of those behind-the-scenes things. Like, it's like, firefighters complained that a kid might do it. But it's like, right, it actually, like, in the episode, they show that it's a dumb idea.
Yes.
So it doesn't really make sense. So, I mean, I hate to say it, another kind of cliche, it's a Rashomon story.
Yes, although I don't know how many shows do those, to be honest.
Oh, I mean, I feel like my thing here, I think a lot of shows do it, but it's normally like way more over the top. Like here's like a really like idealized version of it.
Yes.
So like going back to Arthur, because Arthur and Odyssey has done most of the ripoff ones. Like that, like they do the whole one about the souffle falling on the ground.
Right.
But it's real over the top. These seem like two very like more kind of serious retellings.
True.
Which is why I think it doesn't like work as well as, I mean, it works as well, I guess, as a more serious version. But like usually when kids stories do it, it's because like, oh, you can really do like some real funny like stuff. Like you can really like mess around with it.
Well, I also think because it's Odyssey, they wanted to paint a more relatable situation.
It's
but
true.
I do agree. Like they could have made it goofier.
Yeah.
And this is one of the extremely rare fourth wall breaks in an episode where apparently Donna goes to beat up Jimmy, and Jimmy says, "I tell you the rest, Dad, but this is a family show."
Well, I didn't take that as a fourth wall break. It probably is. I always thought it was just him joking, like, because he's like, nothing really happened, so he's just trying to like stand back.
Well, because I was gonna say, because in the real version, Donna attacking Jimmy never really comes up, but in both versions, it's semi-hinted at that she did.
Yeah, which is pretty funny, to be completely honest.
Yes.
The theme of the episode, according to the wiki, is opinions.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's about people's opinions of what happened. I don't know. It's like true. Like people have different like perspective. So on the actual website, it says behavior and character honesty, which I guess is a little bit better. I mean, the honesty aspect is kind of what comes through. It's like, why didn't you tell us what really happened?
Yeah, I would agree. Now, also you could make the argument that is how they saw it happening in their own heads, especially because for a good chunk of the story, they're apart from each other. Like in that Arthur episode you're referencing, both Arthur and DW witnessed basically the exact same event.
Yeah. Well, my whole thing is right. Like, I feel like kids of different ages have, like, probably skewed perspectives.
Yes.
Where I don't think it's crazy to be like, oh, I did this. I guess it's like when it's like it's Oscar, right?
That is correct. In his last episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
RIP. But like the weird thing about Oscar being the intermediary is that wouldn't he have Jimmy's side more?
Probably.
Like that's one thing that I always like. So Oscar's just like, here's everything that happened, and would just sell Jimmy out of like, here's the exact beats for beat what happened.
Well, it doesn't sound like he sells Jimmy out more than he tells his version, and the dad puts the rest together.
Yeah,
because remember, there's a good chunk of the story that Oscar isn't in. So,
yeah, it's true. I mean, it's pretty obvious to be like, oh, they both did it. I don't know. It's just kind of like, it does go a little over the top.
Oh, definitely.
Like the fire department. I remember the beginning of this episode. It's like, it's our house.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, but I think probably it could have been chilled down a little bit. But I mean, I think it's fine. It's a good episode, but it's just could have been a little different.
Yes. What the heck is going on?
My wife is delivering me some beverage.
Okay. Are you sure you don't need a minute? I can turn off the
display. Fine. We're basically done anyway.
Well, that wraps up today's episode. Join us again next week for 6 more exciting episodes, and get ready for the brand new year of Odyssey with some exciting things we have in the pipeline that John doesn't know about because he doesn't look at the Google Calendar.
Yeah, there's no Google Calendar. I'm sorry if Will's mic sounds really bad right now. He's about a half an inch away from it, and he won't listen to my advice to move further back.
I did back up.
Ow!
Shut up. I'm Will.
I'm John.
We'll see you next week.
Become a part of the Horton team. We're looking for welders, painters, assemblers, machine operators, cabinet makers, and other positions to build emergency vehicles that help save lives. Join us at our hiring event on Wednesday, January 18th from 2 to 5 p.m. at 3800 McDowell Road in Grove City. We offer a huge $1,500 sign-on bonus and great benefits such as 401k match, medical coverage starting day one, and much more. For more information on what Horton can do for you, visit careers.revgroup.com and search Grove City.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.